My name's Noel Henderson and today we're at the Avington Merino stud in central Victoria, about 15 kilometres northeast of Kyneton. We set up our stud 20 years ago now and it was initially a small block. It was 450 acres and today it's grown to 6,400 acres. We had a view right from the beginning about how we wanted to farm. And the first thing we started with was a land management plan. We had thought through in the years leading up to buying the property, we'd researched what we wanted to do, we'd had some training in agriculture, and so the first thing we did, we started re-fencing this property, which also included fencing off the creeks and then planting them. It was at a time when there was a real concern about ovine Johne's disease. This is back in 1996. As a result of that, we then thought about double fencing our boundaries to give us biosecurity from stray stock. And of course, once we double fenced the boundaries, we thought, well, next step will be to plant trees. And in the early days, that gave the sheep wonderful shelter because we're at about 520 metres elevation and it's very windy here all year round, which is good for wool growing, by the way. It works so well on the perimeter of the property that we then started fencing, double fencing between paddocks and planting. So over the years, I think we're up to about somewhere between 150 and 160,000 trees. We still plant 7,000 to 8,000 trees each year, and quite a lot of the seed that is grown into tube stock is seed that over the years has been harvested from trees on the property. So the Avington business is a merino stud, and we grow superfine and ultrafine wool. So our wool ranges from 12 micron up to 17, and at 12 micron it's some of the finest that's grown in the world. We invested a lot in fencing and fencing off creeks over the years, so when the Kyneton Woodlands project started, that caused us to stop and think about perhaps some of the significant stands of trees that we had on the property and maybe look at fencing those. And then when we walked around these areas with officers of the Catchment Management Authority, we realised that some of them were very significant trees, and one area in particular, there was some magnificent old Banksias and Casuarinas. That happened in the first year of the project, that they were fenced off, and now each year the local landcare group harvests seed from these endangered trees, and thousands and thousands of tube stock have been grown on, and they've been planted not only around the district but planted back on Avington. More recently, we've fenced what is a major stand of peppermint gums. That's quite a few acres that's been fenced off and stock excluded, and already we're seeing regeneration and we're seeing a lot of understory planting that wasn't there previously that would have been grazed off by the sheep. And then I guess as an extension to that, we then went into discussions about how to connect areas together. We have creeks that have run right through the property, so that's connected us, beyond our property to others. But now we've got connections running through the property that connect, particularly from the peppermint forest down into Piper's Creek. Our vision for the production of wool is that it's done in a sustainable way and in a way that's in harmony with the environment. The driver for us getting involved in the project was that we wanted to learn a bit more about the plant species that we have. Certainly on the property that rises up towards the Cobble Ranges, there was a diversity there that we just didn't understand. There was something like 160 different plants ranging from grasses through to major trees, and all of that's been documented, and it's a fantastic resource and one that we look at quite regularly, and it helps us identify in other parts of the property what's growing. That was certainly a key motivation, and also to see perhaps a bit bigger picture than just our farm and how it might relate then to a district. And then I guess the next step after this project will be how that district relates to a whole regional approach to protecting the environment. Each time that we've bought more land, we've actually prepared a fresh land management plan for that. So that's always acted as guidance, and we became sensitive to the fencing and the right ways to go about fencing. I think what we have learned is that some of the things we did in the early days we could have done a lot better, and you know, we'll improve on that as time goes by. But we've also learnt what is going to be the sustainable planting long term. I've got a real buzz out of being involved in it, particularly understanding the diversity of planting that we had there on the property. I've also got to understand that with the planting that we've watching grow over 20 years, just seeing the bird life come back here. 20 years ago there was hardly a tree and there were hardly any birds, a few magpies. Now we've got wonderful diversity of bird life, and there must be insect life even more diverse. So that's been really rewarding. I think, you know, in 10, 20 years time or beyond, into the next generation, I think they're going to look back and say, well, you know, somebody had some real foresight here, and they've protected this for us.